We are tuned in to Fitness and Consciousness. My name is Ryan Hadley. I realize I don't introduce myself on the show very often at all. I think on some of the platforms it shows that I'm the host, but I think some of them it doesn't. So in case you've been listening and you wonder who I am, my name is Ryan Hadley. Today's episode is called Starting a New Program. And part of what I'm going to be talking about is a workout program, but also our mental programs, our habits, our patterns, and how these show up in our business, relationships, and our daily life. And, I do this myself where I'm like, why do I keep doing that? Why do I keep staying up so late if I know I have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Why am I going to sleep at midnight knowing my alarm's going to wake up or my alarm's going to go off in 4 hours? And why do I keep doing that? Months and months and months go by, and why do I keep doing that? Well, we each have these patterns, and I'm going to start with the workouts. So I started as a trainer in 1999. So that's like over 1,000 years ago. It's crazy. Now I was 20 years old. I started I worked at a bunch of like little gyms and big gyms, and then I settled into a personal training studio it's a town called Carmel, Indiana. It's the next town north of Indianapolis, and it's pretty affluent. It's, most people have a decent amount of money, and, it's a lot of really nice neighborhoods and homes and more upscale. And I started at a studio there, and I was there for a year and a half, and the owner, she did not tell me how to treat my clients or anything. I was there. I was just pretty much doing my own thing, and I was an employee as opposed to an independent like I am now. And I ended up leaving that place for another gym in Indianapolis on the north side. It was a lot more financially successful. I was still an employee. And the owner ended up being a real control freak, and I ended up quitting, getting out of the business. I started selling lawn care. And then I was just training like friends and friends of friends, just come over to my place. We'll lift some weights. We'll do martial arts. And I wasn't worried about making any money from it. I just loved it. I loved learning. I loved teaching. So the money was really not that important. I was doing something else for money. And I thought, well, as long as I can do what I want for fun, then I can do what I don't want for money. That was kind of the way I was thinking. So I went on like that for a while. And then about 4 years ago, my girlfriend at the time, she knew I was studying Pavel Tsatsouline quite a bit. I'd been doing that for years before then. So I'm in like kettlebells and his, the way he does strength training for barbells and body weight stuff. And I was driving a cab at the time, and she knew I was getting really burned out from that. And you can make pretty good money driving a cab if you put your hours in, but it gets pretty hard to put those hours in. It's pretty rough on the body. So she really encouraged me to get my certification from Pavel, and so I did that. And it was a very cool turning point for me, a change of pattern for me. Her just putting this thing into my mind: you can do this, you can make money at this, you can do things the way you want. And in my mind, the only way I was going to get back into training was with Pavel's certification. When I first started learning about him, it was the Russian Kettlebell Challenge, and now it's Strong First. So I changed my way of thinking from, oh, I'll do what I don't want to do for a living so I can do what I want to for fun, to I'm going to do what I want for a living and do what I want to for fun also. So 4 years later, almost 4 years later, here I am. I've been a Strong First trainer that long, and I've decided to let that expire in May. I was going to renew it. I've talked about this a bit on the show before. But I decided not to renew it and just do my own thing. I've created my own system, a very fluid system. I can work with people online, in person. Online is using video. So it's one-on-one, and I can correct your technique. I can demonstrate. You can play your own music. You know, sometimes people don't like the music at the gym. I'm one of those people. I can't stand the music that's played at gyms for the most part. Sometimes it's okay. But if you're working with a trainer on video, you know, if I'm working with somebody on video, I'm not going to have any music going. But if you want to play your music, you can play. And this isn't just going to be a commercial for my services. I want to talk about how, you know, you can find your own information for free. I'm going to start giving out more information for free, but also what to look for in a trainer. And that's kind of key. So whether you're starting you've never really been in an exercise program before, maybe you're very experienced and you're just wanting to start a new program, whatever your situation is, I think I might be able to offer you some ideas. So we'll start with the goals. So whether you're working with a trainer or you're decided to work out by yourself, it's good to set some goals. Probably not 100 goals, but maybe a few goals. Maybe you want to lose some weight. Maybe you want to gain some weight. Maybe you want it to get a lot stronger. And maybe you want more endurance. So I would recommend stronger. Almost everybody could get stronger and should get stronger. So this might be, I don't want to insult any trainers, but there's a lot of things that I've seen over the last 20 years of being in gyms, and I spend some time every day looking at Instagram. There's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a lot of people I'm studying, but if you're looking at a trainer, are they listening to your goals? There's some trainers who will just want to teach you their system. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you go to a jiu-jitsu class and say, I want to learn karate, well, you're at the wrong place. That's okay. The jiu-jitsu guy doesn't have to teach you karate. He teaches jiu-jitsu. If you want to go to a karate place, go to a karate place. So there's nothing wrong. I have a buddy that does that. He teaches his own system. He's good. The dude can move. He's strong. I'm talking about Joey Lavelle, at Fearless Sloth is his Instagram. And he's one of those where he teaches you his system. And he's good. You might want to do something different, and that's okay. I would recommend him. But if you want to be an Olympic weightlifter, he's not your guy. Neither am I. I'm not. If you want to learn Olympic weightlifting, I'm not the guy for you. So there's some people that will teach you their method, and that's it. And that can be a very good thing, because a lot of times it's going to make sense. So if you go to learn from somebody like Joey or me, or you go to the jiu-jitsu class, or you go to, it's going to make sense. There's some trainers that I've seen that don't seem to make a lot of sense. It seems like there's like a coach, Dan John, who calls it random acts of variety. And you'll do a little of this, and you'll do a little of that, and you'll lift this tiny weight, and then you'll go lift that tiny weight. And it's not optimal. I mean, some people just want to like get moving and do a little something, and the gym is a place to chat, and fine. There's plenty of people just like me. There's one person just like me. That's enough. I'm not saying everybody should train just like me. So when you're looking at the trainer, do they have a program that makes sense? Do they listen to your goals? And everybody that I work with, if it's one-on-one, classes might be a little bit different. But everyone that I work with starts off with a program. So their first workout with me, I'm looking at their movement patterns. So how well do you squat? How well do you lunge? How well can you hip hinge? When, just there's many, many patterns. And for instance, since I've been teaching at this gym, going almost 4 years now since I've got my certification, I have not had one single person on a treadmill. In 4 years, I've never turned the treadmill on. Doesn't mean treadmills are bad. It doesn't mean if your trainer is having you use a treadmill that they are bad or misinformed or not good. But for me, I'm not putting somebody on a treadmill. It might make perfect sense for someone else. I also don't have people do a lot of stretching, like the static stretching stuff. I have a quick mobility routine starting with the head, like head circles. I know most of you are just listening, but some people can kind of see me almost sort of kind of doing it in the video. Like head circles, and then you look left and right, up and down, ear to shoulder, and you're not straining. You're just moving your neck around. It helps to lubricate the joints, and then arm circles, shoulder circles, and then trunk twists. So you're lubricating the vertebrae, and you're just getting moving. And while they're doing these movements, I'm looking at these patterns. Then it goes down to, the hips, the knees, the ankles, toes. So it literally goes from head to toe. Pretty much covers everything. And it doesn't take very long. So then we'll start with some kind of other movement pattern that is probably a loaded pattern. So to me, what's the first thing that you should do? To me, the first thing that makes sense is the deadlift. Because anytime you're going to lift, whether it's a barbell curl, a dumbbell curl, a press, lateral raises, front raise, kettlebell juggling, anything you're going to do, it's going to start off with picking the weight up. Okay, also called a deadlift. So that's the first skill, learning how to actually pick up the weight. We can do this. We'll do this with one arm. We'll do this with two arms. We'll do this with, not all in one session. This is over time. So how can you lift a bar? Maybe we'll use a straight bar or the trap bar, or the hex bar. It's if you're not familiar, it's the bar that you stand inside of and the handles are at your side. So it's called a trap bar or a hex bar. Some people can't stand them. Some people think they're the best training tool that there is. I like them a lot, but we're learning how to pick up one thing, two things with one hand and two hands. Makes sense, right? To me, it doesn't get any more logical than that. So then to me, the next most logical thing to do is carry. Okay, so you pick up the weight, the one weight, the two weights, the trap bar. It's kind of hard to walk with the barbell, but sometimes we'll do it. I shouldn't say it's hard to. It's just to finish the thought about the straight bar. So maybe you're walking with the straight bar overhead. Maybe you're walking with it on your shoulders. There's ways to walk with the straight bar, like a long barbell, I mean. So carries. So there's three basic carries. You can carry the weight, what we call a suitcase carry. So just like you'd carry your suitcase down by your side, one arm. You can do that with two arms. Some people call that the farmer's walk. Then you can have in the rack position, which means if you're if you curl a dumbbell, you could call the top of that the rack position. I'm not going to get too into the details of that. That's not the perfect explanation of that, but good enough for now. And then you can do it overhead. And then you can have combinations. So one is in the suitcase position. One thing that you're holding is in the rack position at your shoulders. And you can have one overhead. And you can have those combinations. So one in the rack and one overhead, both in the rack, both under, or both at the side. I don't want to make this too confusing. But basically carrying whatever it is different ways. You can carry a sandbag on your shoulder. But to me, you learn how to pick up the weight. That's step one. And then you learn how to carry it. And of course, we're not hitting all these variations every day. Then the most logical thing for me is putting the weight overhead. That's going to be the kettlebell, one kettlebell, two kettlebells, or a dumbbell or a barbell. So you'll have one arm going overhead or two arms going overhead. And what does the rest of the body look like when we're doing that? It can vary whether you have a bar or a kettlebell. I'm not going to get into the minutia of the different body positions for kettlebells, dumbbells, and bars. But there's different things that we should be looking for. And then we get into squats. And then there's a bunch of different kinds of squats. To me, there is almost no excuse for not going below parallel on your squat. If someone does not have the mobility to go below parallel, you work on that. How do you work on that? Go over and do some stretches? Maybe. I say squat. I say to get better at squats, do squats. If someone I see is not going below parallel in their squat, I'm not having them go stretch out and then try it again, because it's not, it gets, it can be kind of complicated, but we're working on movement patterns and muscle firing rate, instead of just like, oh, my hamstrings are tight or my ankles are tight. Both of those could be true. There could be an ankle issue. There could be hip things. There could be a bunch of stuff going on. But generally speaking, I don't know if there is an average person, but to say your average person, they should be squatting below parallel. If you're loading up a bar and you're doing quarter squats, you're barely squatting, there may be a place for that. Maybe that helps your judo throws. Maybe that helps your vertical jump a little bit. Maybe. But squat below parallel. And you should be able to do it without what is commonly called the butt wink. That's when you're have a pelvic tilt, your like tailbone tucks under, and your lumbar spine like flattens out, like it loses its natural curve. So when you're doing your squats, your squat, in my opinion, if you're in a loaded squat, which means you have weight on you, your squat ends when you're just before you start the pelvic tilt. And then you work on, sometimes it's just like bracing, sometimes there's a lot going there could be a lot, and I'm going to try not to get into the minutia of this stuff. But that's where it ends, because we don't sacrifice form to get numbers. Like, I should, Ryan said I should squat below parallel, and I got to do it with this kettlebell. And well, yeah, I did say that, but it has to be correct. It has to be good form. And if all you can do is squat down a little bit before stuff starts to go wrong, then we figure it out. But there's no one that I'm having do short range squats. There are some like ones where I'm almost like having people jump. Sometimes they actually will jump with a weight if they're, you could say, qualified to do so. So you would have the trap bar is a good thing to use for that. Sometimes kettlebells or dumbbells, you'll have them at your side, and you're jumping with the weights. You have to make sure you're not having valgus collapse of the knees. You have to have a good form to make this, to even bother with this. So that covers the squats. And then what? So we have like lunging. So like lunging involves some balance stuff. All of a sudden we have one foot in front of the other. So we look at the lunge. Okay, so sometimes we'll be holding one weight on one side of our body, one kettlebell or dumbbell or whatever. Sometimes we'll be holding two weights and lunging, or doing split squats, which is like a lunge but without taking the step. And then we get into rotations. I'm not sure how much I really want to explain that, because I don't want to start getting. I keep saying I don't want to get lost in the minutia, but I keep starting to like go down these minutia roads. The overall point I'm trying to make with that is your trainer very strict with technique? If not, I'd find a different trainer. Now, there's going to be different. There's levels to this stuff. So I think one, I don't know if it was a mistake, but it could be a mistake at first, is to give people too much information. So if I was going to explain a squat, I could explain it for a really long time. And I could, make all like 10 points, and then somebody goes to do the squat, and here's 10 things I got to remember. Well, what I found works better is pretty much just one cue at a time, and usually between sets. I might tell somebody to like stop during the set if they're doing something that I think is going to hurt them. But say, they have valgus claps, their knees are coming in, or their spine is flexing too much, or their heels are coming up, or whatever's happening. I'll give them that one cue, and then that gives them something to focus on. And then the next set, and then pretty soon they've done 4 or 5 sets, and they've put those 4 or 5 cues into practice. And then they've, everybody has, different rates of learning, but I found that that's pretty much the way. So if you're I know a lot of trainers listen to this show, and people in the fitness world. That's what I found works the best. And not to tell people, I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but don't correct people during their set, especially if they're doing something heavy. If they're doing something heavy and something's dangerous, then have them stop. But if they have a heavy bar on their back that's taking 100% of their concentration, don't be like firing details at them when they're squatting, because they're not going to be able to hear you, for one, and you're just going to be distracting them. So again, if they're going to hurt themselves, tell them to stop. They shouldn't be doing a weight that's too much anyways, whatever that means. However much that may be, I should say. But make sure your trainer is technical. That's the whole point. And make sure the program makes sense. Can they explain it quickly? So if I'm going to explain, well, what's my programming? I don't just go through the list of the hundreds of exercises I may implement. It's basically, I use progressions, and it might be, we usually start off like somebody's first time with me, first, say 6 weeks, whatever. We're probably going to do a linear progression. I've never met you before. The last thing I want is for someone to get hurt. So we're going to start off somewhat conservative, because the most important thing is these movement patterns. And then, okay, you're carrying 50 pounds. Okay. That was really easy for you. Your form looks great. Maybe you're doing 100 pounds. Okay, great. That was 70% of your maximum, probably. I'm not worried about what your 100% max is. Not even going for that. The next time you come in, we'll add, so you're doing 100 pounds. This time we'll go to 105 pounds. Okay, cool. Everything looks good. Some room leaving some in the bank is a good concept to keep in mind. it's usually not wise to just absolutely max out. There's different kinds of maxes. Like there's like your daily max where, well, anytime I know I can go to the gym, I can deadlift double my body weight. I can do it safely. There may be some times I walk in and maybe that doesn't feel right. So don't do it. But pretty much, you can do this amount. And then like, okay, well, I have a competition coming up. I don't compete, to be clear. I'm just giving this example. I have a competition coming up. Well, maybe I want to get to 2.5 times body weight. Okay, it's in 12 weeks. Here's the program. So there's different kinds of maxes, but getting back to the cycles. So there's like the linear cycle where start off with 100 pounds, then 105 the next workout, 110, 115. Each workout, maybe you add 5 pounds. That can vary, but that's basically it. And then you get to the end of it, say you did 10 workouts, so then you're at 150 pounds. Then it's time to start it doesn't seem right to go above 150. Then you start your new cycle at maybe 105. So then the end of your second cycle of 10 sessions, you're going to end it at 155. You just added 5 pounds to your personal record. These are just example weights. So then those will work for a long time. Well, sometimes you might need to get a little bit more creative depending on several factors. So then there's step cycles. So the first time, your first workout, you do 100 pounds. The second workout, you do 100 pounds. The third one, you do 105. The fourth one, you do 105. So you do every weight for 2 consecutive workouts. So that does several things. It's easier on the mind because you did this before. Just doing it again. Okay, now you've done that twice. Now adding 5 pounds isn't such a big deal for the third workout. And then you go up like that until you hit your max, and then you can start out again. And then there's a wave cycle. So waves, they go up and down. So let's say I'll start off with 100 pounds, the next workout 105, the next workout 110, 110. And then the one after that, we go back down to 105. And then 110, 115, and then back down to 110. So you go up 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You can vary that also, but basically the wave cycle is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That allows you recovery time. It allows, because part of it is mental. Like knowing you going into the gym and you have to do more than you've ever done before. Okay, sometimes we're ready for that. And then sometimes it's like, man, I don't think today's the day I'm going to be doing more on everything that I've ever done, ever before. So there's that's what cycling allows us, this recovery time. Because it also allows us to work on our technique. I don't think we should pretty much ever compromise our form for numbers. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So whether your goals are losing weight or gaining muscle, or whatever the goals are, you just want to be stronger, you just want to be generally move better. Thinking in progressions is the best way that I know. And so if your trainer is just kind of a little bit over here, a little bit over there, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you just don't really get such great results that way. You can do something. It's better than nothing. And everybody has their own style. Everybody has their own mind. Not everybody just wants to lift heavier and heavier weights. Not everybody wants to. But what I have found is people are capable of a lot more, oftentimes, than what they think. So when you have that woman that comes in and she's 40 some years old and maybe she's, I think she needs to lose 50 pounds or something, and listen to what I just said, and she thinks she needs to lose 50 pounds. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But maybe she thinks that just like, oh, cardio is the way to go. Got to burn calories, got to burn calories. And we're getting into this, burning calories thing. And yeah, there should be a calorie deficit if you're wanting to lose weight. So if you have somebody that wants to lose body fat, are you just going to have a cardio heavy routine? I would say don't do that. I would say have them strength training, lifting weights, movement patterns, load those patterns, have cycles, get them lifting more and more weight, more and more endurance, improve everything. I heard today at my job, so I have a few jobs, my own business, training, the podcast, and I have what I call my job. I work at a factory, and he's like the upper management guy, really cool, but seems to know. I'm not sure how old he is, but he's older, like 60 some, I would say at least. And we had our meeting today about like the plant profitability, and he is asking us. He's like, "What's the most important thing in business?" And people are thinking. He's like, and somebody says customers. He goes, "Customers are damn important." It's like the answer is everything. The most important thing in business is everything. So what's the most important thing in fitness? Well, everything. And I have my system is based on what I call the 5 elements: mobility, stability, strength, power, and endurance. And it's the alchemy of those 5 elements where the magic happens. So when somebody comes to me and they want to lose weight, it's not like, oh, well, let's just hit that treadmill. Let's do lots of cardio. No. We're going to start off with, guess what? Here's this quick mobility routine. And the first thing we're doing is the deadlift. Why? Because no matter what, you're going to have to pick up a weight. You have to learn how to pick up the weight. And if we get into somebody that wants to lose body fat, just the exercise to burn the fat, using just cardio is perhaps not the best way, because there's what's called the EPOC, the exercise post-oxygen consumption. And so, like, say somebody is, and it used to kind of like drive me crazy when I was teaching these classes, and somebody would, and they're looking at how many calories they burned on their gizmo on their wrist or whatever, and then they think that they burned more calories when somebody else did more of a high calorie or a high cardio workout. Well, at the end of that cardio workout, your exercise post-oxygen consumption is not as much as if you're doing like a strength training workout. So even that strength training workout, and power and endurance stuff also, but like I think like kettlebell endurance. So where 5 minutes might be a long time. You're going to burn more in the long run that way. And then like what people actually consume, and what they're doing the other 23 hours of their life, besides being at the gym that day, is going to affect their weight loss. And this way is proven. I didn't invent this. I didn't make this stuff up. The 5 elements theory is mine. But I'm not the one that discovered the strength training epoch versus the cardio. So I'm going to be doing more videos for free on Instagram. My Instagram is at Hadley Fitness, HADLEY Fitness. And I'm going to do more videos for free. Right now, I don't have anything like for sale online, except like one-on-one training. So if people want to work with me over, I use Zoom meeting. It's kind of like Skype. It's supposed to be better. I can record. You can record it, or I could record it, the video, and then I can send you the MP4. So in that video, you'll see I'll be demonstrating the techniques and correcting your form. So then when you go look at the video, you'll be like, oh, that's what he meant by my knees kept coming in when I was squatting. Oh, that's what he meant by my spine flexing too much when I was deadlifting. Oh, that's what he meant by, whatever. You can see yourself, you can see me, and you can keep that forever. So there is that option. If you do want to get a hold of me, the easiest one to remember is fitnessandconsciousness@gmail.com, since that's what you're listening to. Send me a message. Let me know what your goals are, and we'll see if we're a match. I can pretty much work with everybody. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's some things that I don't teach, like Olympic weightlifting. I'm not the guy to teach that. I can do that stuff. I'm not the best at it. I don't really bother with it. But besides that, and there may be some other stuff too. But send me a message and see what let me know what your goals are. And if I'm not the guy for you, I'll figure out another option for you. I'm also going to be putting out more videos. I recently just quit teaching a class, and I hated to do it. I really loved teaching that class. I was doing it for 2 years, a group class, and it was just time for me to focus more on my own thing, and it was kind of a good time to stop because there was some of the students had moved. Some of them were starting their wrestling season. Some of them, like one of my regulars she got a new job, so she's traveling more, so she wouldn't be as consistent. And then so there were some left, but it was okay, there's got to be a better way. And so I'm working on that, and there's some stuff that's still up in the air. I forget why I brought that up. But anyways, that's what I'm focusing on. So if you're local, and if you're in the Indianapolis area, I'm still working with people one-on-one or in small groups. I train in Broad Ripple, or doing this stuff online also. And then there'll be more free content on my Instagram. There's some up there, but I'm going to get better at explaining things because I like free information. I like studying people for free. I don't mind paying for stuff also. I also pay for something. My buddy is putting on a workshop I think it's next weekend. I'm going to that, so I'm paying money to go learn from. So I don't mind paying, but I also like free information. And I have a lot of experience in a lot of different ways of fitness. And I want to share as much of that as I can for free. And I also want to make money because unlike you people, I have to pay bills. I know nobody else pays bills, but I have to. Now, of course, we all have bills, right? So I'm kind of like fine tuning my thinking. This is getting into like maybe the different parts of the patterns. Maybe this is a good segue into this other pattern stuff because I don't want to. Hopefully, I'm not getting too lost in the weeds on the training stuff. But I think hopefully I was kind of making it clear. Just to put a cap on that part, make sure your trainer is technical. Make sure they listen to your goals and understand that the trainer might not be for you. You know, are you doing the equivalent of going to a jiu-jitsu class and asking them to teach you karate? Okay. Just so consider that. So transition into like these other patterns and maybe talking about the way I'm doing my business a little bit will help you recognize a pattern in your life, or maybe you're just interested in what I'm doing. So the podcast has just turned a year old. Today is Valentine's Day. I know it's probably not for you, but it is for me. I don't have a date tonight. I'm a single guy currently. And I thought, well, what better way to spend Valentine's Day than where was I? Oh, so business stuff. So getting on these patterns. So one of my patterns was I have so many ideas that it's like, okay, I'm going to organize a workshop with a bunch of trainers. I got to write all of that out. I got to do all of that. I'm thinking about starting this new class, this weekly class. Okay. And then I'm going to work on these, this more online training. Oh, I got to keep up with my Instagram videos. I got to put together my videos better. Okay, I'm going to start this other thing. I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to rent a place. I'm going to start doing training out of this place and rent it out to other trainers. And okay, I'm going to, oh, wait, what did I forget? So I was spreading myself too thin. And so it seemed like the appropriate time for a few different reasons to quit teaching my group class, even though I hated to stop. It seemed like a good time for various reasons. The podcast is just over a year old. It's doing so well. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And from the analytics, it looks like there's a lot of people that listen regularly. There's also a lot of new people coming on every month. It's so cool to see something that, you know, starting from scratch, starting from, you know, not being, you know, starting out as a famous guy to having, not that I'm, you know, famous now, but to start off with just this idea of a podcast that's kind of about almost anything and have it be working, and the analytics every month just getting better and better. So the podcast turned a year old and I'm like, okay, it's doing really well. It's time to do even more with it. I want to make it even better. One of the ways I'm going to make it better is giving more training advice, but I know a lot of people that listen are, you know, maybe they're not listening for that reason. They like the consciousness stuff, the different guests that I have, or the ideas that I explore on my own that don't really have anything to do with exercise. But there's a lot of people in the fitness world that are listening, so I want to give more free information of how people can start, because it can be really overwhelming when you're looking at all these different ways of fitness, and there's a lot of trendy stuff, but there's some of this stuff that's just evergreen. There's some stuff that's just going to be the right thing to do forever. Can you squat? Can you hinge? Can you pick up the weight? Do you know how to deadlift? Uh, so I want to give out more of that information, and that also helps me develop myself, because when I go back and listen to the episodes like I do, I try to listen to them again. Like, oh, I meant to say this, I forgot to add that, or whatever. So going from back to my patterns, I'm trying not to spread myself so thin, to concentrate more on the few things that are working great. And I had a girlfriend of mine. She studied Goenka. She studied Vipassana meditation, and Goenka, who was her, she never actually met him, but she still considered him her teacher. He said something like, if you're digging for water, just dig one hole. Don't dig a bunch of shallow holes. Just keep digging, keep digging. And so that, I have the tendency to dig a bunch of holes, and then I can end up having a bunch of stuff going on that's not working out so great. So when I'm seeing these things that are working out really well, it's time for me. I'm always trying to like condense, always trying to grow, always trying to condense. So I'm trying to get better at all of that. And besides the business stuff, I'm looking at like, well, what other kind of patterns do I have? And there's some relationship patterns that I'm not sure why I keep repeating them. It just kind of keeps happening. And I actually decided, I knew I was going to bring this up on the show. But so I'm in this pattern now where this friend of mine, who at one time was a bit more than a friend, that's how I've described her before. So we're friends, and we get Thai carry out pretty frequently, about once a week. Sometimes there's a week skipped or whatever, but it seems like, not seems like, it is me paying for it pretty much every time. She did pay for it once. And so now I'm just in this pattern, and I was thinking, okay, I need to end this pattern. And then last night, what do? She asked if I would, what I was doing, and if I wanted to get some carry out. And so I go and I get the carry out, and I take it to her new place, and I did it again. And I don't, she's not using me for green curry. It's not like she doesn't have the $12 to buy her curry. Maybe she is short on cash, but I don't think she's using me. I think it's just a pattern probably for her also. I think and I've talked about this on the show before, but I think we get into these patterns. There's guys, I think, can easily get in the pattern of paying for everything. Like maybe at first, I do think it's better for the guy to pay for the dates for however long. But in the past, this is kind of this pattern where it like kept going on and on, happened with someone else too. We kind of dated, and then we were just friends most of the time, but somehow I'm still paying for the dinners and the concerts, and it was not, it was just a pattern. I don't think she was using me for that, because it's not like I'm being like super extravagant in my gifts. it's, you know, some $30 Indian meal or, carry outs. It's not like I'm way over the top with my spending. Where was I? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But so I think it's just natural for the guys to. Oh, so I think at first, us guys, if we're interested in a woman, we should pay for stuff at first. But there should be a time where she says, maybe you're like, okay, let's go out tomorrow night. And then you're getting ready to pay for it. And she grabs the check and says, I got this one. Let her do it. Let her do it. And then, like, that's a really good sign, I think. There is something in the mind where, like, one of these women that I was in the pattern of paying for everything with, she said something like, she thought that, like, the guy wanted to, like, there was, I don't remember exactly if she was talking about this particular time that we went out, but I was paying for the dinner. I was paying for these concert tickets. We meet for the dinner first. And I'm thinking it would be nice if she offered to pay for dinner because I've already got these concert tickets. But she didn't. And she's ordering appetizers and she's ordering like all this stuff. She's making this dinner more expensive than it needs to be. But then she doesn't offer to pay for the tip. She doesn't offer to pay for any of it. It's just like, okay, the bill comes, and I'm like, okay. But in her mind, she was thinking, okay, the guy wants to feel like a man and treat the woman for the whole night. So that's a good thing to do also. So I think a good pattern to get into would be to communicate that at some point. And that point is before there's resentment, because the other person may not understand, may not be aware of your thoughts and your feelings. They might just think you just really love paying for everything. So if you're a woman and you're listening, and the guy that you're seeing, maybe he makes a lot of money. Maybe he makes 10 times as much as you. Maybe he's a billionaire. Pay for the freaking carryout sometimes. It really means a lot. So it's not like my electricity is getting shut off because I paid for uh, my friend's curry. But when she did offer to pay for it the one time, it means something. And so, and if the situation can be reversed also. So maybe the man is going out with the woman and the woman's like, oh, I got this. I'm not worried about money. I'm a millionaire. You don't have as much. I'll pay for everything. Pay for something. These small gestures really mean a lot. And it's cool and it's a surprise. And if you could do it before the conversation has to happen. So when he asked you out and that bill is coming, like, I got this. Or maybe like when he goes up to go to the bathroom or something like that, the check's there. He comes back. He's looking for the check. I already took care of it. Trust me, it goes a long way. So that's a pattern that I want to stop. And it's only happened with a couple different women, I think. I might find that pattern in some other where I'm doing more than another friend, but that doesn't really happen. It's easier to have boundaries with another guy or another, uh, yeah, just a dude. It's a lot easier to, and it's not expected. I mean, if you're doing something with another guy, you don't expect somebody else to treat you with a couple of these relationships. Maybe part of it is they're they have a need to be taken care of because maybe their dad wasn't around, and this happens to be the case in the examples that I gave. And there's something about that where they didn't get the care from the first man in their life, whether he was in their life or not. So they hope to have that in someone else. But so we have to be careful when we're approaching the subject because we don't necessarily know how the other person is thinking. So another pattern that I'm wanting to change in my programming is I want to get better at saying people's names when I say hi to them. A lot of times I'll just say, "Hey, what's up, man?" Something like that. And it happened at the gym just a little bit ago. My buddy's like, "Hey, what's up, Brian?" I was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And then afterwards, I was like, "I did it again." And it was my buddy JP. But I find myself I do that in other situations too. At work, a guy he's like, "Hey, Ryan, how's it going?" I was like, "Oh, what's up, man? I'm pretty good. What's up, man?" And it's just like this habit. And then right afterwards, I'm like, I missed it again. So I want to get better at saying people's names because it does feel good when somebody says your name. I'm listening to the audio book "How to Win Friends and Influence People" by Dale Carnegie. This book was written in like the 30s, but I was listening to that and he said the same thing. And of course, this is something that I think everybody knows, but it's just good to be more conscious of it and actually do it because I keep missing it. Now I do it sometimes, of course, but I do keep missing it, and I don't want to do that. But in that book, it says something like a person's name is like the sweetest sound that they have, that they know, because it's who they are. So when you're addressing who they are, it means more than just, "Hey, what's up, man?" Like, oh, just man, just like there's 3 billion of you. So what's up? If you say like, "Oh, what's up, JP?" Then like JP, there's only one. There may be other people named JP, but when you say the name, you're talking about that person, and it's just a lot more meaningful. What else was I wanting to talk about today? let's see. Sorry. I'd hate to miss one of the things I had written down here. To get back on the workout stuff, one of the things that I missed was your trainer to make you feel safe and also guided to new skills, unlocking new your strength and patterns. So you shouldn't be just like on the edge of, like where one more pound would probably tear your muscles. And you shouldn't be just like, this is so easy. There's most of what we should do, I think, should be around like the 75, 80%. That's a really rough estimate. And there should be that like 95%, 90, 95% sometimes also. Depends who you're working with also. And yeah, I'm trying not to get into the weeds. It's like sometimes I'll get these answers can be super technical. And I don't want to do that. If you've been working with a trainer and you're not seeing results, or you think your results can be better, or you're looking at the other trainers, you're working with someone and you start about the same time as somebody else with another trainer, and you see that other person, they're using heavier weights, they're doing more stuff. I don't want to say more stuff. They seem like they're getting better results, prove, like what can they actually do? Because just like more stuff, it could just be more junk. Are you using the same weights that you were using 6 months ago? If so, now depending on a lot of factors, but if so, why? Especially if they're at low weights. So yeah, if you're deadlifting more than double your body weight, and in the last 6 months that hasn't changed a lot, okay, maybe there's some good reasons to not be forcing that, and there's a reason to be working on some other movement patterns, other maybe imbalances, or so maybe if you're at double your body weight for the deadlift and your trainer isn't trying to get you to like more than that, there may be reasons for that. I think there's a point of diminishing returns, especially when we get to maxes, like max, like you can't do it every day. It has to be like built up to, and so what kind of progress are you making? Because you can have like these workouts where you're like tired or sore afterwards, and you're still not really getting anywhere. So figure it out. Figure out why that is. Maybe talk to someone else. Maybe this makes sense to you. I hope this, I'm going to start wrapping this show up, and I hope this has made sense to you. And I'm going to be doing more videos, especially Instagram. That's at Hadley Fitness, where I'll be breaking down things like I'll be doing some stuff on Instagram TV, but also like these 1 minute videos. Here's how to do this technique. Here's a little breakdown of this technique. Most techniques can use more than a minute of explanation, but that's what I'm going to be working on. There was I'm going to end it. I was going to end it with something else, but to get back to it is Valentine's Day. And so I'm going to end it with this a book that someone recommended to me. It was a guy at work, actually, and it's called The Five Love The Five Love Languages. And love language number 1, words of affirmation. Number 2, quality time. 3, receiving gifts. 4, acts of service. 5, physical touch. I haven't read this book yet. I just got it from the library. I think the point is to identify what it is that you want, need, maybe look at like why that is. And there's something to be said for like looking at our past, like, oh, we had like these childhood traumas, and that's real, that these traumas are, or whether it was like with our parents, or maybe, abusive relationships. There's what I call ghosts. And the ghosts are what has happened in the past that haunts our current relationship. So maybe your girlfriend is upset with you about something. You don't understand why. Maybe she's really upset about something that happened a long time ago. You didn't have anything to do with it. Something just reminded her of that, and you're taking the hit for it. I've talked about that kind of stuff before, and I'll keep talking about it because I think it's important. I've seen it in my own. But learn to listen. These shows that I do by myself, I'm not listening. I go back and I listen. And sometimes I'm really happy with what I've done, and sometimes I see, room for improvement on how I can express myself. I don't write everything out. What I do is I write out an outline, and I just kind of go through these different things I want to talk about. As part of what I'm doing is exploring my mind by talking about this stuff. And sometimes what comes out kind of surprises me. I'm like, anyways, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up now. Again, thanks everyone for listening. If you are interested in training with me, whether it's in person, if you're in the Indianapolis area, or online, you can send me a message, fitnessandconsciousness@gmail.com. And some of what people do is, actual workouts where I'm watching their technique. And then other times it's just consultations. So we just link up the video and talk to each other. And I'm learning about what it is that you want to do and how I can help you with it, give you some ideas on where to start. Because this world of fitness, it's so vast. There's a lot of great information out there, and there's just a lot of junk too. So again, thanks everyone for listening. If I do realize that most people just listen to the show. There is a YouTube channel, Fitness and Consciousness is the YouTube channel. So you can watch the videos of that. Some of my guests are worth looking at. And I think it gives Just different. But most people by far just listen. But I want people to know that there is a YouTube channel. It does help to hit like. It helps to hit subscribe. And I will leave it at that. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time. Happy Valentine's Day, or happy whatever day it is.